I have 3 of the world's toughest exams in front of me. These exams aren't just about getting good grades, they are life-defining. I have China's Gaokao, India's JEE, and South Korea's CSAT. And in this video, I'm going to go through and compare them head to head to see which is the toughest of them all. Comparing exams from different countries is not easy. What makes an exam tough will differ for everyone. We all know that the toughest exam is the one you haven't studied for. I have covered each of these 3 exams individually on my channel before, but now I want to see the latest test papers and see how these exams stack up when compared. To break it down in the style of a tech unboxing, I'm going to look at how each exam compares in terms of packaging, specs, a test run, and its overall value. So let's take a look at them. For high school students in China, the Gaokao isn't just an exam, it's the ultimate goal of their school education. That's why many refer to schools as Gaokao factories. The packaging for this exam in many high schools includes oath-taking ceremonies 100 days out from the exam. These ceremonies are held to boost the motivation of students as they enter the final and most intense phase of their preparation. During the event, students, teachers, and even parents gather to participate in speeches, pledges, and activities aimed at boosting morale and commitment. The oath-taking component involves students publicly committing to give their best efforts in the remaining days, often pledging to work hard, stay focused, and achieve high scores on the Gaokao. These ceremonies also help to foster a sense of unity and shared purpose within the school community. Here are images of Chinese police officers working to fetch a student's Gaokao test permit from a river. The student had dropped their permit into the river and couldn't enter the test venue without it. Parents also commonly wait outside the exam hall as their children sit the test. The whole community is a part of upholding this test's reputation. Meanwhile, in South Korea, many of the nation's high school seniors are preparing to sit the CSAT for the chance to attend one of the country's best universities. The nickname SKY is used to refer to the top 3 institutions, standing for Seoul National University, Korea University, and Yonsei University. But what's so special about these 3 universities? Well, they are believed to have the best prospects in terms of employment and prestige. The packaging for this exam includes songs that are considered banned by the public conscience because they are so catchy that they will disturb your studies. These playlists include SHINee's Ring Ding Dong, BTS's Go Go, and Red Velvet's Zim Zalabim. On test day, it's not just students who are affected. Everyone is aware of the importance of the day. To reduce traffic, the Ministry of Education requests for offices to open later. Subway trains are increased in the morning to accommodate students. Vehicles cannot enter or exit test centres within a 200-metre radius. And flights are even suspended or rerouted to reduce noise during the listening section of the test. Over in India, students are also facing a lot of pressure preparing for the Joint Entrance Exam, or JEE. The JEE Main is a standardized exam for high school students wishing to undertake further studies within India. For those wishing to study at one of the prestigious Indian Institutes of Technology, known as IITs, the more difficult JEE Advanced must also be undertaken. It accepts only the best students from the main round. Similar to the Gaokao and the CSAT, the stakes for the JEE are incredibly high, as performance on these exams can determine career paths and long-term opportunities. This results in enormous pressure on students from family and society. India takes these exams seriously. The National Testing Agency has implemented several stringent security measures to ensure the integrity of the exams. These measures include the use of mobile signal jammers around examination centres, and they also have fingerprint scanning performed not only on entry but also after restroom breaks to prevent impersonation and any attempt to circumvent exam security, which has been a recurring issue. In April this year, at least one impersonator was caught by AI used for remote biometric matching of candidates. An NTA official said that once the exam started, all the images and biometrics captured at entry were matched, and after about 45 minutes, the impersonation was detected. The person who was taking the exam was approached by the official and they confessed. The exam centres are monitored remotely by a command control centre who continue to look through data long after the exam ends, searching for any suspicious patterns. It's time to look into the specs of each of these exams, starting with China's Gaokao. The structure of the Gaokao varies by province. For instance, in some regions, the exam follows the 3+3 model, where there are 3 compulsory subjects, Chinese, mathematics and English, and 3 selected from chemistry, physics, biology, history, geography and politics. The Chinese exam lasts 2.5 hours, while math and English are 2 hours each, and the selective subjects each take 1.5 hours. In 2024, 13 million students took part. Whilst about 5 million will get admitted to a university, just 2%, or about 250,000 students, will be admitted to what's called Project 985 universities, which are a group of 39 universities considered to be China's most elite. Getting into these elite universities is seen as important due to a rising stigma against less prestigious institutions, fueled by the increase in the number of college graduates. The number of postgraduates in China has doubled since 2014, and so companies hiring people can bypass the less prestigious applications and still have an abundance of candidates to choose from. In South Korea, the CSAT is an 8-hour test. It starts at 8 a.m. and ends at around 5 p.m. There are 4 mandatory subjects: Korean, maths, English, and Korean history, and 1 elective. Last year, over 500,000 students took the test, and over 30% of them had already graduated high school but were continuing to try to ace the exam before moving on in life. Some people will take the exam 3, 4, 5, or even more times, trying to achieve the life path that they want for themselves. I also found reports of parents signing up for the exam in an attempt to lower the average scores of subjects that their children were struggling with to help their children's relative scores increase. The JEE Main is an online test that takes 3 hours to complete, specifically targeting physics, chemistry and mathematics. In 2024, over 1.4 million students took part in the exam, with only the top 180,000 qualifying for the advanced round. Not every student who took the main round had intentions to complete the advanced round, but for the unlucky many, their dream of attending an IIT was already over. The advanced exam has 2 papers, each 3 hours long, to be completed on the same day. Of the 180,000 students that took the test in 2024, only about 27% qualified for an IIT, with only 16% of those successful candidates being female. The top 3 IITs in Madras, Delhi and Bombay are particularly competitive, with only 7% of the total candidates securing spots in these institutions. Therefore, achieving a high score alone is not enough. Candidates must rank within the top few percentiles to gain admission to these elite IITs. It's now time to take each exam for a little test run by looking at some recent questions. Here is a 2024 Gaokao math paper. There are some multi-choice questions on things like the intersection of 2 intervals and complex number multiplication. Over the pages, they get more involved. Let's look at the last question and a rough translation. I'll summarize the ideas but won't solve it. We have an arithmetic sequence, which means numbers separated by a common difference. We take out two numbers, I and j, and are left with m groups of 4 numbers, which each forms their own little arithmetic sequence. The question then asks us to find the possible pairs of I and j for which this is true, and part 2 wants us to prove it for a longer sequence. Part 3 asks us to show that there is more than a 1/8 probability that taking out any 2 random numbers will leave us with many arithmetic sequences. It's testing ideas from combinatorics, probability, proofs, and sequences all at once. Here's a Korean CSAT 2024 paper. Our easier questions are on simplifying expressions and finding the derivative limit. They again get more involved as the pages turn, and similar to the Gaokao, some geometry problems are sprinkled in. Here's the second to last question in this section, plus a translation. We have a piecewise function that is quadratic and then logarithmic. And then there's another function, g of t, which is the maximum value of the first function over this small interval. They want us to find the minimum value of the constant a, which is from the logarithmic part, such that the minimum value of the function g on the interval 0 to infinity is 5. This seems tricky to me, and there's some even curlier ones. These students are amazing to solve these in less than 3 minutes each, which is how long they would have per question. Here's paper 1 of JEE Advanced 2024, the math section. There's functions and probability, trig functions and geometry. Then things step up a level. Some of these look crazy hard. For the Gaokao, CSAT and JEE, there's no calculators allowed, which makes some of these questions even harder. The last math question is this one, where we have 2 functions and a third composite function that depends on 4 parameters, a, b, c, and d. We are asked to match each set of values for these parameters with a property of the composite function. There's a lot of little steps in this, almost designed like a hurdles track, to create many opportunities to slip up. A typical unboxing video might next consider the overall value of a product and ask if it's worth the price. For an exam, that's a little harder. The questions themselves only show us so much, and it's by looking at the overall effect on the students' lives and on society that we can try to understand the value of these exams. China's Gaokao is more than just an exam. It's one of the most significant events in a person's life. The Gaokao's merit-based approach offers social mobility, making it a key pathway to success. This idea of merit-based selection for job advancement started with Gaokao's ancient ancestor, the Kiju or imperial exams, around 600 AD. The imperial exams lasted over 1300 years and were primarily aimed at selecting government officials, focusing on Chinese literature, Confucian philosophy, and poetry. This was a very different way of doing things. Before these exams, government officials had been chosen on birthright alone. Studying hard for exams has been part of China's history for over 1,000 years. The modern Gaokao, just like the ancient Keju, is an exam that offers individuals the opportunity to advance in society based on their academic performance. This makes it high stakes and motivates intense preparation. It also provides an illusion of fairness even when things are still not quite fair. Parents with more time or money are able to help their children with private tutoring or after-school activities, and even moving to a region where location-based quotas may work in their favour, all in the attempt to get into a good university. By 2021, the amount of after-school tutoring in China had got so out of hand that the government banned it for primary and middle-aged school children. This was an attempt by the government to reduce the academic burden for children and promote social equality. In the years since, much of the tutoring has been pushed underground, with increased prices making it even harder for low-income families to compete. The Gaokao was first held in 1952 but was paused during the Cultural Revolution. The exam was revived in 1977 at a time when the country needed skilled professionals. Only 200,000 of the 5 million people who took that Gaokao in 1977 were admitted to university, but many of that cohort landed prestigious positions. Many leaders across various fields, including politics, science, and business, emerged from these graduates. And their success further solidified the importance of university education and the Gaokao in Chinese society. Today, many more people get into university, and so acing the Gaokao doesn't hold the weight that it once did. However, students and parents still see admission to a prestigious university as the ultimate goal. In South Korea, it was reported that around 80% of all children attended a cram school, also known as hagwons. These private after-school tutoring services can go as late as 10 p.m, and some families are spending as much to attend them as they are on food. Some experts believe that the high cost of preparing children for university has contributed to the country's declining birth rate. Again, this effort comes with the belief that getting into a good university will guarantee one economic stability and a well-paid job. Hagwons feed into the competitive feeling of needing to get ahead of others. The cycle goes like this. The hagwons teach their students more than regular public schools, which results in the CSAT writers creating harder test questions. Then the hagwons market themselves by claiming a student won't be able to pass unless they take their classes. In June last year, the South Korean president instructed writers to exclude questions that were outside of the curriculum from the CSAT. These killer questions had been used to differentiate between top scorers. When it was announced these questions were getting cut, students thought the 2023 test would be easy, but the writers made the other questions, which were in the curriculum, harder by having multiple choice answers that were hard to distinguish from each other. The test overall was very difficult, with only one student achieving a perfect score. The government has also tried to rein in the hagwon industry. In the past they were banned, but today they face rules such as not being allowed to open past 10 p.m. and are not supposed to teach material ahead of mainstream schools. It is a similar story in India, where the JEE exam is seen as a direct gateway to high-paying jobs and respected careers. There is a booming private coaching industry within India centered around Kota in Rajasthan, which has become known as the coaching capital. Kota hosts thousands of students annually who come from all over India solely to prepare for exams. Coaching centers like Ellen and Resonance offer structured, intensive programs with long study hours, regular assessments, and minimal breaks. Students often live in hostels with rigorous schedules. This industry has transformed Kota's economy, making it a bustling centre for hostels, eateries, and other services catering to students and their families. There are even some luxury hostels on offer for students. However, these coaching schools have been criticised for prioritising profits over student welfare and aiming to increase registrations at all costs. An alarming rate of student suicides has given the city a bad name, and some coaching hostels now sit vacant as families reconsider the value of sending students away from home to prepare for exams. The government has tried to change this tragic fact, but it is hard to tackle, especially when a student feels that there is no room for failure. Is it possible to say which of these exams is the hardest? Well, the Gaokao, with its staggering number of competitors, is daunting by sheer scale. The CSAT intimidates through the intense competition for limited seats in the prestigious universities. Meanwhile, the JEE's dual structure, with main and advanced, demands high performance in not one but 2 rounds. Yet, these exams share more in common than just high-stakes pressure. They each determine the path for millions of students and reflect societal values like prestige, national pride, and perfection. All three demand exceptional dedication and grit, embodying the universal story of pursuing dreams through education. These exams encapsulate the hopes, dreams, and ambitions of millions. In each country, exam preparation often leads to stress, anxiety, and in some cases, disillusionment with traditional success. Memorization and endless practice may boost your test scores, but it might come at the expense of creativity, problem solving, and interpersonal skills, which are hard to cultivate within these test focused systems. Despite this, many talented and creative individuals emerge on the other side of these exams, a testament to their dedication. Any student who has faced one of these exams, whether or not they achieved their desired score, should be incredibly proud. The effort, discipline, and persistence put into pursuing their dreams deserves celebration and respect. Good luck with any exams that you may be preparing for, and thank you for watching this video. This video has no sponsor, which means it was only made possible by my Patreon supporters, who have each made a monthly pledge to this channel. The idea of Patreon comes from the fact that many artists throughout history were backed by supporters whose patronage is the reason many artworks existed at all. Sometimes an artist would paint their patrons into their work as a way to say thank you. I'm not making Renaissance paintings, but I can include your name on the end screen of videos if you sign up to the gold tier. If you want to support my work and be responsible for me making more videos, please visit my Patreon page. These are the names of this video's patrons, and a special shout out to today's Patron Cats of the Day, Serenity and Serendipity.